Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have another Swedish beer and we're going to return once again to the guys at Omnipollo who are kind of from Stockholm. They're gypsy brewers and they brew their beer all over the place, but the company is based in Stockholm. So tonight we're going to have a taste of the Omnipollo Leon, which is a Belgian style pale ale and supposed to be really quite nice actually. It had ratings of 90 on both Rate Beer and Beer Advocate, 90 plus I should say, so it's supposed to be a very good beer, this one. Quite looking forward to trying it. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the company. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All of the usual websites are in the video description for you below. That includes the brewery website, the link to my other Omnipollo beer reviews, and also my Facebook page for the channel, and also my Untappd profile. So feel free to contact me on whatever means you like. Always interesting to hear from you guys. So anyway, to tell you about Omnipollo. Omnipollo was founded in 2011 by Henok Fenty, who was a long-time home brewer, and also Carl Grandin, who was actually a clothing designer. But the two met one day and they decided to start a brewery together after discussing the kind of insular craft beer scene in Sweden and the wider world abroad, of course. But they wanted to reinvigorate the craft beer scene from a stylistic and from a gastronomic sense, so they felt that the partnership between a home brewer and a designer was actually very logical at the time. But the name Omnipollo is derived from omnipotent chicken, so Omnipollo, pollo of course Spanish for chicken. But these guys, as I told you, are gypsy brewers, so they have no brewery of their own and they rather use the spare capacity at other breweries, and they brew many collaboration beers as a result of this. Go and check out the brewery website below and you'll get an idea of all the different beers that they do. But they actually currently export to over 20 different markets and they're continually working to grow that as well. So I've heard some of my viewers, John Shepherd in Australia was telling me that he's seen Omnipollo. I know you can get them in America, you can get them throughout Scandinavia, we get them in Britain, I think in Ireland as well, and probably New Zealand I would guess, but you can get Omnipollo in many different places. But recently they also opened the Omnipollo's Hat in Stockholm as a collaboration with Pizza Hut, and this has actually become quite a popular place in Stockholm, so they've got many of the Omnipollo beers on tap, and apparently they do a very good pizza as well. And currently they've got over 30 different beers on their website, and this covers a wide array of styles. So like I said, go and check out the brewery website and you will get an idea of all the beers that these guys have to offer. And if you're near Stockholm, go and check out the Omnipollo's Hat as well, and I'll definitely be doing that when I finally make it up to Stockholm from Lund. So anyway, without further ado, let's get stuck into this, guys. So this one is a 6.5% Belgian Pale Ale. It's apparently designed so that basically, if you like drinking craft beer, it's designed to kind of start off your night out, so that once you don't really care so much once you're drinking the kind of bland lagers after you've had a few drinks. But you can see it's got the kind of nice random Omnipollo artwork on this one. There apparently is a smaller bottle of this that has a similar kind of scheme, but it's like a keyhole that's on the bottle. I'm not sure if that's an old one or if it's just the fact that you get two different sizes there. And this one, as you can see, has the kind of champagne bottle top on it, and apparently this uses champagne yeast. But as I say, it's designed to kind of start off your night before you have to drink the kind of shitty lagers, if you like. So it should be quite an interesting one, and it's brewed at De Proefbrouwerij in Locriste Heifte in Belgium. So it's brewed at the same place that a lot of the Mikkeller and To Öl beers are brewed. So it seems to be quite a popular destination for these gypsy brewers. So let's get this guy open. It comes in at 6.5%. There we are. Nice smoky opening on this guy as we open it up. So yeah, as you would expect when it's a Belgian Pale Ale, you would expect it to be a nice kind of blonde colour as it's turning out. I'll just put a little bit of it in the glass just now and let that head settle a bit. This is a nice big 75 centilitre bottle, but as you can see, it's poured a really kind of bright, rich, goldeny yellow colour. It is hazy. If I put my fingers behind it, you can see them just a little bit, but it is a nice hazy beer, which usually tends to be the case with these Belgian style beers. There's some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, just a teeny little bit of sediment visible there too, but a lot of these bubbles rushing up towards the bottom of the head there, and a kind of finger and a half of probably a white to sort of creamy coloured head, I would say, on this guy. Not perfect white, but definitely very close to it. Probably a creamy colour is the best way to describe that, but looks very nice kind of Belgian Pale Ale style beer. So should be a pretty good one for us to try. I'll just put a little bit more in the bottle there, in the glass, see how it turns out. So yeah, you can really smell the yeasty characters and the nice malty sweetness on this beer as you're pouring it. So let's give it a proper smell before we dig into it. So yeah, as you would expect from this one, you've got that typical big, when it's a Belgian Pale Ale, you've got that nice typical big Belgian yeast there. And there is a little bit of a banana character, but underneath you can definitely pick up some sort of kind of sweet caramelly and biscuity note in there. Maybe a little bit of a kind of coriander or peppery sort of spicy element from the malt as well. But definitely a big bready Belgian yeast, just a little bit of that kind of banana-y note coming out of it, and a bit of cereally and biscuity caramel sweetness out of this one. But definitely a bit of spice, and you can also pick up the hops on this too. There's a nice citrusy sort of lemon coming off this one, and I want to say there is just a little bit of a kind of tropical note as well, a very kind of faint grapefruit in there, but mainly a nice citrusy lemon characteristic coming off of this one. I'll give it another smell as I'm drinking it because the head is quite big, so that might obscure it a little bit, but without further ado we'll get stuck into this guy. So this is the Leon, the Belgian style Pale Ale, designed to start off your night before you have to drink shitty lager, and it's from Omnipollo, who are based in Stockholm in Sweden. Skål! It's quite nice actually, quite highly carbonated. That's the first thing you'll know about it, but maybe that will smooth out as we go on. Yeah, as you would expect from this kind of style of beer, a nice big bready Belgian yeast coming out in a lot of the flavour, but there's a sweet caramel just kind of underlining that. Yeah, when you first take the beer in, it comes across to me as being kind of quite spicy. There's a good bit of a coriander and peppery spice just goes right in the middle of the tongue, but you've got that kind of big sort of bready yeasty Belgian layer that it just kind of blankets the middle of your tongue right away. It's really quite nice. It's the typical characteristic of these Belgian style beers that's in this one. Yeah, it smooths out and you'll feel that it comes in with a good bit of attack and it's quite spicy, but then it smooths out and you start to get a little bit of the sort of biscuity, syrupy, grainy sweetness coming out of this, and on top of that there is a bit of a kind of richer caramel right in the middle of the tongue. You'll feel that kind of grainy sweetness, the sort of grainy, biscuity, syrupy sweetness in there, and the sort of richer caramel element to the flavour actually. But yeah, definitely an element of a sort of slightly peppery or coriander spice. But interestingly, in the aroma I was getting a sort of banana-y flavour in this one, but there's not too much of that in the actual flavour of the beer, I have to say. It kind of smooths out a bit more, and it is just a typical sort of white bready element, and then cereally spicy character on top that gives way to that sweeter malty character that I was talking about. Yeah, only a very kind of mild hint of that typical banana that you expect from it. I was expecting it to be a wee bit more tart than this, and that's just because it uses the champagne yeast, but maybe that's what gives it the slightly higher carbonation that it does have in comparison with some of the other ones. In terms of the hoppy characteristics of the beer, it would be interesting to know what hops are actually in this one. Incidentally, they don't have that on the website, but it has a nice sort of citrusy and aromatic character. It's actually quite dry around the edges of the palate there, and it's a big sort of floral and aromatic, kind of almost spicy floral aromatic character that goes around the front curve of the tongue there in this one. But yeah, you'll feel a little kind of oily bubble behind the very front curve of your tongue too, and that's where the more fruity and juicy aspects of this beer are coming out. So there's a kind of sort of lemony, slightly citrusy peel from this one. I'm not really picking up any sort of tropical fruit flavour in this one. It is a very strong, quite sharp lemony citrus. I'm not even getting the more juicy, orangey citrus element from these beers that sometimes you can get. It's definitely a big, sharp, lemony kind of citrus sort of citrus peel flavour you're getting out of this beer. But yeah, definitely a nice big grassy, aromatic-y floral character around the edge of the palate where you get these hoppy elements. And even when you go to the back corners of the tongue, it is staying it's quite smooth and grassy at the very back corners, and then as you move forward on the edges of the tongue there, it does become a bit drier and a bit sharper, so there's a nice kind of dry and bitterness beer. It's really quite well done actually. It's a good start. I can see why they say it's designed so that you drink this before you go out and drink the more kind of bland beers, because after this you can feel a bit of boozy warmth in it and you're not going to care what you're drinking after one or two of these. But yeah, really quite a nice beer actually. The flavours do blend together very well in this one. So yeah, overall, in terms of the flavour, a nice big bready Belgian yeast in there. It comes in with a bit of kind of peppery and coriander spice, as I said, but then it smooths out in the middle of the palate to give you a bit of a biscuity, syrupy sweetness, and then a bit of the richer, slightly darker caramel in there too. Just a very light note of the banana, almost not noticeable actually unless you've got quite a fine-tuned palate. But definitely a big bready character, not much in the way of banana, and as I say, around the edge of the palate, quite smooth and grassy at the back of the tongue, but then it becomes drier and more aromatic towards the front, and a bit of a kind of slightly oily lemony citrus coming out of this beer. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would say definitely quite mid-bodied. The carbonation in this one is quite crisp, and I suspect that that's down to them using champagne yeast in this beer. But overall, I would say it's got a big malty character to it, this one. The hops are quite noticeable when you first take it in, and the hoppy character almost just goes down a little bit as you progress through drinking this beer. But there is a good big hoppy and bitter dry character that goes into the aftertaste quite a lot in this. It is slightly oily in the mouthfeel, and that helps bring out some of the lemony flavours, and also just a little bit of the caramelly and slightly biscuity flavours of the beer. But overall, it is quite a spicy. In the aftertaste, it is the kind of bready spice that's in this one, and the dry floral aromatic characters. The lemony citrus is there too, but it's just a kind of something that's kind of underpinning the beer. It is mainly quite florally spicy, quite aromatic-y spicy, and there's a good bit of that spicy malt there in the middle of the tongue, but quite malt forward, but there is a good hop presence in this beer as well. But nice mid-bodied beer, quite sessionable, but I think with this one you can get just a little bit of alcohol warmth in it, and it's only 6.5%, so it's not too much, but I think you can just get a little bit of it down here as you progress through this one. So overall, it's another really good beer from Omnipollo. Whether it's my favourite Omnipollo one, I can't really say yet. I've only tried two of their beers actually. This is only the second one that I'm reviewing for you, but it's a nice one. And I would say if you enjoy your Belgian style pale ales and it's a beer that you do quite like sessioning, then this is one definitely for you. I would have one of these. I can see that it would be a good beer to session, but if I wanted a tasting beer, I probably would be more tempted to go for one of the darker beers that they do, or the Neb, of course. The Neb is a kind of cult classic beer in Sweden, but this is a really good sort of sessionable option from Omnipollo, and I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. If I saw it on tap, it would be quite interesting to try, so maybe I can try that when I go up to Stockholm. But anyway, as always, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. To my Swedish viewers, please suggest beers for me to have a look for and try for you. I've got quite a bit of time that I can do some Swedish reviews for you. Always cool to visit beers from new countries as well. This is another really good option from Omnipollo, but as I say, Swedes, please let me know what beers you would like me to drink. And as always, I hope you guys have all enjoyed this beer review. Really cool to visit another Swedish beer, but let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer. Always interesting to hear them. And in the meantime, until my next beer review, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. And until then, slange you for now, and there will be many more Swedish reviews and other Nordic beers for you to come. Skål!